My wife left me for a wealthy businessman she met online who turned out to be a romance scammer, and now she's filing for bankruptcy after losing our entire life savings. I'm Ethan, 33, married to Kristen, 30, for 7 years. I work as a high school math teacher, and she was a part-time bookkeeper for a small accounting firm. We lived comfortably in a modest house with about $40,000 in savings, planning for our future and maybe starting a family. 8 months ago, Kristen became obsessed with social media and online dating culture, constantly showing me posts about successful entrepreneurs and wealthy lifestyle content. She started complaining that we were wasting our youth being financially conservative instead of taking risks to build real wealth. Kristen began spending hours on various social platforms and professional networking sites, claiming she was researching business opportunities and investment strategies. She seemed fascinated by stories of people who'd built fortunes through online ventures and international business deals. 6 months ago, Kristen started mentioning Scott, a businessman she'd connected with through LinkedIn who specialized in international trade and luxury real estate investments. She was impressed by his success stories and the lifestyle photos he shared from exotic business trips. Kristen began having long video calls with Scott, always taking them privately in our bedroom or home office. When I asked about the conversations, she said Scott was mentoring her about business opportunities and teaching her about wealth-building strategies. Over the past few months, Kristen became increasingly critical of our middle-class lifestyle, making comments about how we were playing it too safe financially and missing opportunities that could make us rich. She seemed frustrated with my teacher's salary and our modest savings approach. Kristen also started dressing more expensively and getting professional photos taken, claiming Scott had emphasized the importance of presenting a successful image when networking with high-net-worth individuals for potential business partnerships. 4 weeks ago, Kristen announced that Scott had invited her to visit his business headquarters in Miami to discuss a major investment opportunity that could change our financial future. She was excited about the trip and said it represented a chance to finally escape middle-class limitations. Kristen flew to Miami for what was supposed to be a 3-day business trip, but she extended her stay twice, claiming the investment discussions were more complex than expected and that Scott was introducing her to other wealthy investors. When Kristen returned from Miami, she seemed transformed. She was glowing with excitement and couldn't stop talking about the incredible business opportunities Scott had shown her and the wealthy lifestyle she'd experienced during her visit. Kristen claimed that Scott had offered her a partnership in his international trading company, but it required a significant financial investment to demonstrate serious commitment. She wanted to liquidate our savings account to invest in Scott's business venture. I was skeptical about investing our entire life savings in a business opportunity with someone Kristen had only known online for a few months, but she insisted that Scott's success was obvious and that this was our chance to become truly wealthy. Kristen became angry when I questioned the investment, accusing me of being too conservative and risk-averse to recognize a genuine opportunity for financial transformation. She seemed convinced that Scott represented our ticket to the luxury lifestyle she'd been craving. 2 weeks ago, Kristen confessed that her relationship with Scott had become romantic during her Miami trip, and that she was planning to leave me to be with him. She claimed their connection was both business and personal, representing everything she wanted in life. Kristen said she'd realized during her time with Scott that she deserved a partner who could provide real financial security and exciting opportunities, not someone content with a teacher's salary and conservative savings approach. Kristen had already transferred our entire savings account to Scott's investment company, claiming it was necessary to secure her partnership position before she relocated to Miami to be with him permanently. She'd invested our $40,000 without my consent. When I demanded she get our money back immediately, Kristen became defensive and accused me of trying to sabotage her chance at real happiness and financial success. She seemed convinced that Scott was her soulmate and business mentor combined. Kristen packed her belongings and flew back to Miami the next day, claiming she was moving in with Scott and starting her new life as a successful international businesswoman. She seemed thrilled about escaping what she called our boring, financially limited marriage. But 3 days later, Kristen called me sobbing from the Miami airport. Scott had disappeared completely, along with our $40,000 in money from dozens of other women he'd been running romance scams on simultaneously. Kristen discovered that Scott's luxury lifestyle, business headquarters, and wealthy connections were all elaborate fabrications designed to extract money from women seeking wealthy partners. His international trading company was completely fictional. The FBI was investigating Scott as part of a larger romance scam operation that had defrauded victims of over $2 million through fake business investment opportunities and romantic manipulation tactics. Kristen was stranded in Miami with no money, no return flight, and the devastating realization that she destroyed our marriage and financial security for a man who'd never existed in the first place. And now she's filing for bankruptcy after losing our entire life savings. Kristen had to call her parents to wire money for a return flight home, admitting that she'd been scammed out of our life savings by a romance fraud artist she'd met online and fallen in love with. The shame of explaining to her family that she'd left her marriage for a scammer who'd stolen $40,000 was devastating for Kristen's self-image and relationships with relatives who'd always respected our stable marriage. Kristen's attempts to recover our money through law enforcement were hopeless, as Scott had disappeared without a trace and the FBI investigation revealed that multiple fake identities and offshore accounts had been used to launder the stolen funds. The financial impact was catastrophic for Kristen, who now faced the reality of being unemployed, homeless, and broke after destroying her marriage and losing our entire savings to someone who'd been manipulating her emotions for money. Kristen tried to return to her bookkeeping job, but her employer had already hired a replacement during her extended absence, and explaining the reason for her sudden departure made her seem unreliable and emotionally unstable to potential employers. The credit card debt Kristen had accumulated while trying to maintain the sophisticated lifestyle Scott had encouraged pushed her deeper into financial crisis, as she could no longer afford minimum payments without steady income. Kristen was forced to move back in with her parents at age 30, having lost her marriage, career stability, and financial independence for a relationship with someone who'd been systematically robbing her while pretending to love her. The romance scam investigation revealed that Scott had been running identical schemes with over 50 women simultaneously, using the same business investment stories and luxury lifestyle promises to extract money from each victim. Kristen's case became part of a federal prosecution, but the chances of recovering any stolen money were virtually zero since Scott had moved the funds through multiple international accounts before disappearing completely. The psychological impact of being manipulated so thoroughly was devastating for Kristen, who struggled with depression and anxiety about her judgment and ability to trust anyone in future relationships. 6 months after the scam, Kristen filed for bankruptcy due to overwhelming credit card debt and complete loss of assets, having no way to recover financially from the $40,000 loss and subsequent unemployment. Kristen tried to contact me multiple times, apparently hoping for reconciliation now that she understood the difference between genuine partnership and criminal manipulation, but I'd already moved on with my life. I'd started dating a librarian at my school who appreciated stability and honest relationships over the wealth-chasing fantasies that had destroyed my marriage with Kristen. My new relationship was built on shared values rather than financial ambition. The divorce settlement left Kristen responsible for the credit card debt she'd accumulated during her affair with Scott, as her financial decisions had been made independently and without my knowledge or consent. A year after leaving me for Scott's promises of wealth, Kristen was still living with her parents and working part-time retail while dealing with bankruptcy proceedings and the ongoing psychological effects of being romance scammed. Kristen's social media posts became cautionary content about romance scams and financial fraud, apparently trying to warn other women about the dangers she'd experienced, but her follower count was minimal and engagement was poor. The sophisticated international business lifestyle Kristen had thought she was joining with Scott was revealed to be completely fictional, created from stock photos and fabricated success stories designed to manipulate vulnerable women seeking wealthy partners. Kristen occasionally posted about personal growth and learning from mistakes, but everyone could see the obvious decline in her circumstances compared to when she'd been married and financially stable. 2 years later, Kristen was still struggling with basic financial recovery while dealing with the permanent consequences of falling for a romance scam that had cost her everything stable in her life. The $40,000 Kristen had invested in Scott's fictional business represented years of careful saving that could never be recovered, creating a permanent reminder of how her pursuit of wealth had resulted in complete financial destruction. Kristen's attempt to upgrade from a teacher's wife to an international businesswoman had resulted in bankruptcy, unemployment, and social isolation, proving that her conservative marriage had actually provided the security and stability she'd thrown away. The FBI case file remained open, but Scott was never caught, leaving Kristen and dozens of other victims with no recourse for recovering their stolen money or achieving any sense of justice for the elaborate deception they'd experienced.